Monday night call. We have this field call every Monday evening for our leaders in the Our Revolution Nation. My name is Christy Lara. Thanks to everyone who's joining us tonight. If this is your first time joining us, please let us know. Also, if you've joined us on many calls before, give us your name, what state you're organizing in, as well as what group you organize with. We want to start this call with a happy International Women's Day, y'all. Great day to celebrate women's history in Women's History Month. We are going to read out the names that come into the chat. So please make sure you put your name as well as what state you're organizing with and what group you organize with. We have an exciting call tonight. None other than Senator Nina Turner will be joining us to discuss the work that they're doing in Ohio to help Nina join the squad in Congress. So please make sure that you stay tuned for that, as well as all of the activist work that's going on, the organizing state by state across the nation. We have several people joining us in the chat. I'm going to visit the chat now. So many people, East Coast to West Coast, including the middle sections of America. We want to thank everyone who's been able to join us. All of the links you will need to find are in the chat. We have Edna Tenney joining us from Florida, Maria from San Francisco, Sue Weisner from New York, Pierre joining us from Yonkers, New York, Andrea Bergiano Robinson joining us from SCOR, Lauren Tenney joining us. She's the Vermonter in Texas. Welcome. John Redondo, Redondo Beach, California. Mark Craig from Michigan. We have Ashley King joining us from Tennessee. Ashley says she's doing voter registration. Reverend Dr. Wendy Ella May joining us from North Carolina with a 100-county plan. That local organizing is the organizing that will make the difference. Jackie joining us from Massachusetts. Let's see, Alpana joining us from Seattle. Stan joining us from Missouri. He says, where Congressional Representative Cori Bush was racially profiled by Ferguson police. We have Jen B joining us from Orlando, Florida. Darlene Purdy lives in Desheen, Utah. Hope I said that right. Felipe joining us from Oregon. Let's see, Kathy joining us from Roanoke, Virginia. Cyrus from the south side of Chicago. Paul Kelly joining us from Valley Center, California. We're going to give the call just a little bit longer to build here. Again, if this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you join us every Monday night, we're so glad to have you here tonight. So many bold progressives joining us, organizers across the nation. You're going to hear reports from people who are doing this tremendous work of building a progressive movement as well as a progressive party. And again, Senator Nina Turner will be joining on this call on International Women's Day in Women's History Month. We're so excited to have her on the call tonight. We're going to give it just a couple of more minutes. Again, please make sure to put your name as well as what state you're organizing with and what group you're organizing with in the chat. You can also join us by hitting *3 to speak to an operator. We just finished up our very first membership organizing effort this past month, our 2021 membership drive. If you have not joined yet, you can go to ourrev.us/2021member to become a member tonight. You can also visit our website or find the link in the chat. If you're already a member and you've signed up, tell us why you signed up in the chat. We want to know why Our Revolution is important to you and what helped you join Our Revolution this evening. We're going to give it just a minute more. As we like to say at Our Revolution, campaigns end and revolutions endure. Joseph, can you take it from here?
Thank you, Christy. Good evening, everyone. all across America, and welcome to our Monday night national Organized to Win call. My name is Joseph Kivargis, and I'm the executive director of Our Revolution. Tonight, we're going to be talking about how our revolution members from coast to coast are executing our 4-point plan to win transformational change in America. Brothers and sisters and everyone in our progressive community, 2021 promises to be the year when we make real progress on our progressive priorities, but only if we organize to win.
That's right, Joseph. But before we get going, we want to remind everyone that we are still in the midst of our very first membership drive. We're asking our supporters to officially join Our Revolution. If you've already become a member, thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell us why you joined in the chat. And if you haven't signed up yet, you can join by clicking the link in the chat. You can also hit *3 to speak to an operator. And you can also visit us by going to ourrev.us/2021member.
So let's get started tonight with our political report. Even though 2021 isn't an election year, it's not an off year for our revolution. This year, there are hundreds of races all across the country where we're helping to elect progressive champions. Just last week, Our Revolution St. Louis helped elect an entire slate of progressives who are running for mayor and city council seats. These progressives are going to advance to the general election in April. Congratulations, Our Revolution St. Louis.
That's right, Joseph. And our wins in Missouri come after progressives who also won big in Illinois. From the mayor of Evanston to the treasurer of North Chicago, a new wave of progressive leaders are going to be taking office.
And talking about progressive leaders taking office, L.E. Savitt, who our revolution members helped elect as the prosecuting attorney in Washtenaw County, Michigan, which is where Ann Arbor is located, joined one of our organizing calls last week. And he talked about what he was able to accomplish since taking off in January. You ready for this? Since January, he's ended cash bail. Since January, he's stopped his office from working with ICE on immigration enforcement. And since January, he's made a decision to prosecute gender-based violence and violence around sexual orientation as hate crimes. If that's what he can do in 3 months, imagine what's going to happen by the end of the year. That's what our revolution progressive champions are doing all across the country. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from another candidate who we're working to elect, in this case, to Congress, our very own Nina Turner.
Speaking of Congress, Joseph, there is, tremendous news. We're going to talk about we're fighting for progressive policies in Washington. We applaud passage of the COVID relief for millions who lost their jobs and others who are being paid poverty wages. We're a little disappointed, even with our 4-year transition period, $15 minimum wage was dropped. But as Joseph told NBC News, it's political suicide for Democrats to walk away from workers. It's just a lie to tell low-wage workers that Congress will pass a standalone bill, the Raise the Wage Act. There is zero chance of the Senate voting on anything more than a token raise, like $10 or $11, due to the Senate filibuster.
Well, here's the thing, Christy. The game is not over. There's going to be a second budget bill later this year. Just like the first bill, we're only going to need 50 votes plus one to win. And that's why our revolution is mobilizing right now to fight for 15. We want to make sure that there are tax penalties imposed on bottom-feeding corporations that keep their workers in poverty. We're not going to take any excuses from an unelected Senate parliamentarian, and we're going to make sure Joe Biden and Kamala Harris fight for 15, not just mention it and then forget about it.
That's right, Joseph. Also this week in Congress, man, it's been a busy week in Congress. So much to say here, but in quick summary, we supported the introduction of legislation to make sure the ultra-rich pay their fair share in taxes. And our members helped pass H.R. 1, the For the People Act, in the House. This legislation will strengthen voting rights and shore up our democracy. We also passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act and legislation to end qualified immunity for rogue police officers.
But here's the reality, Christy. Just like we saw with the Fight for 15, we cannot rely on right-wing Republicans to support our agenda and get our policies over the finish line in the Senate. So what does that mean for us as a movement? That means we've got to organize to end the filibuster. We've got to stop Republican obstructionism. And by doing so, we got to clear the path for the Fight for 15, for the For the People Act, for the George Floyd Act. We can do this, brothers and sisters. There's a link in the chat. Our revolution is working with the Fix the Senate coalition right now to mount an all-out campaign to get rid of arcane Senate rules, a relic of the Jim Crow era that is an impediment to progress. Brothers and sisters, if you want to join our fight, sign up in the chat.
That's right, Joseph. And now an update on how we're fighting for progressive policies locally. Just this past week, we had significant victories. Cannabis reform was signed into law in New Jersey, and Illinois became the first state to end cash bail.
Well, speaking about needing cash bail, our very own Christy Laura, my co-host tonight, and a delegation of our Revolution Texas student organizers got in a dust-up with the police this week. Why? Because they were protesting the firing of faculty at Collin College in McKinley, Texas. These faculty members were fired for trying to organize a union and criticizing the school's response to COVID.
That's right, Joseph. And the truth is, conservatives, the GOP, they don't like us protesting. And that's why our Revolution Florida members rallied in Tallahassee last week to demand that legislators kill Governor Ron DeSantis's anti-protest bill. They silence and criminalize Black protesters who exercise their First Amendment rights in the pursuit of racial justice. Florida is among 11 states trying to pass similar legislation regarding protesting, Joseph.
Well, Christy, you know what? We're not just out there protesting. We're also out there passing progressive policies. One example, our Revolution Maryland is celebrating the extension of the earned income tax credit to all low-wage workers, regardless of immigration status. This makes Maryland one of the few states in the nation that treats undocumented workers as workers.
You know, Joseph, there's so much to be said here, but finally, we need to talk about transforming the party into a progressive party. Our Revolution is the only group working to change the Democratic Party into a progressive party. Since January, we've been electing progressives to party positions in California, Colorado, Maine, Florida, and Michigan. Just last week, our Illinois Revolution members mobilized to elect U.S. Representative Robin Kelly to be the new chair of the Illinois Democratic Party. And our Revolution California's statewide meeting, Amar Shergill, chair of the California Democratic Party's Progressive Caucus, spoke about how the party chair, Rusty Hicks, disqualified thousands of ballots with valid postmarks. But we fought back. That's right. Progressives fought back. The Progressive Caucus had enough votes on the state party executive board to overrule his decision. This is how we change the party, Amar said.
That's right. This is how we change the party. And this is how our revolution is changing our country. Elections come and go, but our movement keeps on moving. Right? That's what we are doing tonight and every night all across the country. Brothers and sisters, if you are able, I want to ask you to join us. Become a card-carrying member of our revolution. Donate $5 or more if you are able a month, and support the work of volunteers and activists all around the country who are doing the good work of causing good trouble. All of you will get a membership, Our Revolution membership card, Movement Builder membership card in the mail in recognition of your support of our movement.
Joseph, so many amazing supporters, so many amazing members supporting the work that we're doing here at Our Revolution. And especially today, we have a very special guest, a very special person, not just to the movement, but to Our Revolution specifically. Today, on International Women's Day, during Women's History Month, we'd like to introduce our first guest, a champion for women and progressive causes, our very own Senator Nina Turner, as we fondly refer to her, SNT. Nina is running for Congress in Ohio's 11th Congressional District, and our members are going all out to help Senator Turner win. This week, Our Revolution Ohio is kicking off Neighbors for Nina. Our first volunteer orientation was earlier this evening, and on Wednesday, we're going to be holding our very first voter contact training for our activists. On Wednesday, we're going to be holding trainings every Wednesday through the middle of this month, training for our activists. And in April, the rubber will seriously hit the road as we start to canvass precinct by precinct to elect Senator Nina Turner. You can visit that link if you want to join that effort and you want to organize for Nina in Ohio to help us build the squad, y'all. You can visit the link in the chat. You can also go to our website or join the link at the Mobilize link there. And Joseph, we're not just on the doors, we're organizing precinct by precinct on the doors, but we're also on the phones too. So people can volunteer from all across the nation. Our Revolution members have been phone banking for Nina, and so far we've already recruited over 550 volunteers. Volunteers have made over 50,000 calls for SNT, and you can be a part of this 100-strong army of phone bankers and door knockers to get Nina elected to Congress and expand the squad even more by signing up on with the link in the chat, ourrev.us/call for Nina. You can also hit *3 to find out how you can volunteer for Senator Nina Turner. And with that, I would like to welcome SNT to the call. Is she on the line? We're going to give just a few minutes for SNT to connect, but we want you guys to know there's a lot to discuss about what's going on in Ohio. We're going to give it just a few minutes to get this. What you guys need to know is that Senator Nina Turner next week will be organizing with Amazon workers to make sure that their voices are represented regarding the protest and the effort to organize and unionize Amazon workers. And we hope to bring you more information about that later on in the call. We're going to go ahead and continue to our next segment. As soon as Senator Nina Turner is able to join us, we will connect you guys with that information. Joseph, do you want to go ahead and tell us about what's going on with Amazon workers in Alabama?
Absolutely. So our revolution stands with 6,000 Amazon warehouse workers in Alabama who are organizing a union to fight against sweatshop conditions. Union organizer Michael Foster was on our call a few weeks ago, and he said Amazon's anti-union campaign is one of the worst that he's ever seen. On our call, he said that President Biden needs to come out against Amazon's union busting. And our revolution got his back in the media. We called on the president to pick a side. Either you're on the side of workers or you're on the side of Jeff Bezos. And you know what? President Biden picked the workers. He tweeted out that workers in Alabama should be able to organize without, I quote, intimidation or threats, unquote, from their bosses. Workers should be able to organize without intimidation or threats. That's the first time since Franklin D. Roosevelt was in the White House that we had a president speak so forcefully about the right of workers to organize. On Friday, a congressional delegation that included Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Andy Levin, and other Our Revolution endorsed progressive champions actually traveled down to Alabama to meet with some of those workers who are organizing. And you know who was there? Our Revolution. In particular, our next guest, the leader of Our Revolution, Birmingham, Alabama, Eric Hall. Welcome, Brother Hall.
Hey, Joseph, thank you so much for that introduction. Our Revolution family, we're excited just to be a part of this organizing call. I don't oftentimes refer to myself as a leader. I'm just a servant and a member of Our Revolution. But it's the folks here in Birmingham that's really on the grounds every day doing this work. We have some wonderful organizers, and we believe in collaboration and partnering with other folks to make this dream work. So it's teamwork that make the dream work. And so we're just excited to be a part of this call and just to kind of talk about some of the things that's taking place here dealing with Amazon. You touched on...
Well, let me ask you, tell me about some of the activism that you and your fellow Our Revolution members have been engaged in to support the Amazon organizing.
So far, I'm just going to give a huge shout out to our sister organization, Democratic Socialists of America, Birmingham Chapter, as well as the national organization itself. They have really been on the ground since day one, working in partnership with us. We have been canvassing the neighborhoods, connecting with people on the grounds. We've been inside barbershops, giving out speeches, talking to people, just doing having regular conversations with people on the ground, talking about the importance of what this union means. I read in one article that this is literally the third largest election in our country. This Amazon election is literally the third largest election. The world is watching Alabama. And of course, the organizers on the ground, Our Revolution, Democratic Socialists, SWEET, all the organizations that's Greater Birmingham Ministries, NAACP, Black Lives Matter, we have all come together in solidarity with those workers at Amazon to say enough is enough. And we're gonna have a union here. This will be the first Amazon union in the United States, and it's gonna take place right here in Bessemer, Alabama. And it's going to be made possible through all of those organizations that's fighting, because we understand that when we organize, we win.
That's right. When we organize, we win. That's our motto here at Our Revolution. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about what the workers at at Amazon in Alabama are facing as they try to organize to win their union. The boss is waging a vicious anti-worker campaign. What does that look like on the ground?
On the ground, of course, Amazon has invested in one of the largest firms in union busting. And so our experience with engaging with some of those employees of Amazon, they're scared. You got the top, Jeff Bezos himself came to Birmingham a man who really one of the richest men in the world traveled to Birmingham on last week. And we don't know what the conversation has been or if he met with the employees or not, but they are literally putting scare tactics in the minds of those employees. I've heard some horror stories. As you mentioned earlier, some of the people said that they can barely get a break to go and get water after working on a production line. They can't go to the restroom. Their time for how long they go to the restroom, they only get a 30-minute lunch break. And sometimes even in those 30 minutes, it probably take you about 10 minutes to go just to get something to eat. And so those conditions, it's horrid. Nobody deserves those working conditions. Those workers deserve to be treated humanely, treated with dignity, and treated with respect. And that's one of the reasons why our revolution is leading this fight to ensure that those workers, those Amazon workers, those 6,000 people that go to that fulfillment center on a daily basis, 85% or so of those people are Black and brown bodies. And so we're going to make sure, we're going to fight make sure that those workers are appreciated and that the appreciation shows through the pay and through the protection and through what the union is going to provide for them.
Right on, Eric. And so you were there when the congressional delegation flew into Alabama. They met with workers. You were at the press conference. In fact, you live streamed it. Tell us a little bit about that congressional visit. What did the members of Congress, what did they have to say to the Amazon workers? And what did they have to say to the corporate executives who are sitting pretty at Amazon?
So the congressional delegation did not meet with the corporate executives. The congressional delegation met with RWDSU, the retail workers, the union. They met with the union, and then they also heard some stories from some of the workers just to kind of hear their experiences. And, the purpose of the delegation being there, one, is to show their support, but two, hear their stories and hear how they can help. And so part of the conversation on how they can help, of course, they were talking about the bill that's coming up. They're going to be passing the PRO Act bill, hopefully on this Wednesday. They seem pretty confident about passing it. The delegation that was there, the progressive members that was there, I can honestly say I'm very impressed because it looks like they're having a huge impact on some of the more moderate Democrats. And I'm grateful that, those progressives are shifting some of the more moderate Democratic representatives. But they talked about passing the PRO Act. What our revolution pushed and what we made sure that we wanted to happen. We're calling for the president, for members of the congressional delegation, members of the House, members of the Senate, to ask the administration to stop all federal contracts for those companies that invest in union busters. These companies get millions of dollars in federal contracts. And so for those companies that are getting those dollars, they should be using those dollars to silence the voices of the people and the laborers who work for them. Because at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon, and he's the head of Amazon, but it's the workers that fulfill the everyday mission and make sure that those packages are going out every day. And so if they stop working, Bezos' pay is gonna stop. And so, that's what it's about. We calling for, literally asked the delegation to consider that. They asked us to send over a one-pager of what companies were involved in investing in union busting. And hell, I said pretty much all of them. So that's something that we need to look at, especially large billion-dollar companies who can afford to give a livable wage. One thing I can say is it was kind of funny that Amazon, I guess they tried to fight back, and their message to the congressional delegation was to support the $15 minimum wage since Amazon pays their employees $15. Well, what I want to say to Amazon is that if you think that minimum wage, $15 is a living wage, then that's BS, especially for a corporation that literally earned billions during a global pandemic while your workers are literally on the front line struggling to pay rent, to pay bills, and you're boasting yourself for giving them $15, that's minimum, And so as we're fighting for 15, Amazon should need to be looking at about giving a $30 wage since they can afford it,
That's right. That's right. Look, this is Eric, thank you so much for your leadership and everything that you and our Revolution members on the ground are doing to show solidarity with the workers who are going through this meat grinder of a union election. And yes, what we're doing here is we are calling on the president to do more than tweet, right? Workers in this country need the ability to organize without employer interference. And the president could, with the stroke of the pen, say no more tax dollars for companies that try to break unions. Amazon is one of many examples. Amazon gets billions of dollars in lucrative federal contracts. It does cloud computing for the CIA, for the Defense Department. It provides staplers and desks to government employees, right? This company is everywhere, and Jeff Bezos is making money off of our taxpayer dollars. And where is that money going? Well, I heard they're spending $10,000 a day on a union busting law firm. I don't want my tax money spent like that. And so we need the president to take executive action to stop union busting. We're also going to be talking a little bit later in this call about getting the president and Congress to take legislative action and to pass the PRO Act, the PRO Act. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Eric, thank you so much. We're now going to take it to our next guest, Christy.
Yeah, Joseph, thanks so much, Eric. It's good to hear from workers on the line, literally in the trenches, fighting the good fight. And we know that bold progressives across the nation that we endorse as candidates are the people that we can rely on to help things like the Fight for 15, as well as union busting organizations get a fair voice by representatives. Senator Nina Turner is scheduled next week to protest with our revolution at the Whole Foods in Cleveland. Senator Turner, if you're able to tell us a little bit about what you intend to do next week, as well as why this fight at Amazon is so important, not just for you as a candidate, but for us as a movement.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be back with our revolution. I feel very much that I am at home. So I know I'm welcome at all times to you, to Joseph, to everyone. And I thoroughly enjoy hearing Brother Hall lay it down. I want to shout out the women in Alabama who are doing the daggone thing, the Black women who are leading this, and everything that Brother Hall had to say about what we can do. It can be done, it must be done, and what Brother Joseph laid out about what the President of the United States must do in this moment. And I'm so glad that many of our progressive Congress members went down there to stand side by side with our workers, as I have many a time over the last 6 years. It does matter that people with fancy titles or fancy connections are right there in the trenches with the everyday people. And Amazon can afford it. Jeff Bezos can afford it. It is really immoral. All of the money, this predatory capitalism, all of the money that companies like Amazon have made, and their workers have to beg and prod and protest just to get them to do the right thing. So I do agree, and I applaud our revolution for being one of the leadership organizations in this space to say, as Brother Joseph just said, not on our watch and not with our tax dollars will you union bust. Not on our watch and not with our tax dollars will you pay workers a starvation wage. We can control it. The federal government can control it, and it must control it. Has a big stick, and baby, we need to start using that stick on behalf of the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. So as I stand in solidarity with workers, as I always have, that's really what we will be saying at Whole Foods. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the fact, and you guys probably did that a little earlier, that this is International Women's Day, and the theme of today is choose to challenge, baby. Choose the challenge. And we know that when we challenge, a challenged world is an alert. And from that challenge comes change. And that's what this challenge, and that's why I love the theme so very much, because we must challenge to get the change. This ain't about going along to get along. This is not about who's your friend and who's not your friend. This is not about going to the White House Christmas party. This is not about hobnobbing and rubbing elbows. This is not about blindly backing somebody's agenda sight unseen. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in our districts and places where people have to live, work, and play, their material conditions are not changing. No, this is about challenging so that there can be change. And that challenge can be done in love, baby, but we must get the change. And so we're going to continue to push to Pride to do that. And as Brother Killer Mike said, we're going to plot, plan, strategize, mobilize, and organize. And that is what this movement is all about. Since I can't say it any better than Michael has said it, so we're just going to borrow from Brother Killer Mike. Plot, plan, plan, organize, strategize, and mobilize. I might have a couple of those out of order, but y'all understand what I'm saying, baby. We're going to get to work. We're going to continue to do this great work. So yes, thank you for, raising the wage is a woman's issue. Guaranteeing healthcare for all is a woman's issue. Canceling student debt is a woman's issue. Making public education from pre-K to college and or technical schools is a woman's issue. And eliminating climate chaos is a woman's issue. And you know what? Let me put a finer point on that. What are women's issues is the issues of every community. Our issues, women's issues, resonate for our state. Women's issues resonate for our nation. And my God, women's issues resonate internationally. And baby, when you lift women, you lift in whole communities in one fell swoop. So women's issues are humanity's issues. Can I get a hello somebody and an amen on that? So glad, so glad to be back home with you all and to be in the trenches with you in this righteous fight. We are pushing for an opportunity agenda. So when people ask you what we standing for, an opportunity agenda, politically, socially, economically, environmentally, and racially, baby. Yes, an opportunity agenda where the material conditions of the least of these are changed. And when we do that, everybody else that's a little above that, they gonna be all right too. So that's what we doing. We pushing hard. So happy International Women's Day to all the ladies and the men who support us too. We need some allies, sisters, don't we?
Well, Senator Turner, we thank you so much. And it's such a joy and a pleasure, quite frankly, an honor to have you on International Women's Day here at the Our Revolution call. We do consider ourselves a progressive family. And there are a few stats that I want to give out to those listening to us on the line. The majority, 59% of workers who would get a raise from a minimum wage increase are women. That means 59% of those who make under $15 an hour would be the people getting a wage increase. The majority of workers at the Bessemer, Alabama Amazon warehouse are women. And so the work that we're doing affects directly, as Senator Nina Turner said, not just the women who are affected directly, but their children and their families. And we thank you so much, Senator, for reminding us of that effort. And for those people who have not joined the effort to help Senator Nina Turner become part of the squad, grow the squad, represent not just the good state of Ohio's 11th district, but representing every progressive voice in the nation, you can do so by going to ourrev.us/call-for-Nina to make calls for Nina. You can also visit our website, ourrevolution.com, to find out how you can organize in Ohio, those that want to block walk on the doors and on the phones. We will do every which way, as S&T has reminded us, Killer Mike. We will organize every way, all the ways possible, but you can specifically join these teams, phone banking, block walking, for progressive champions like Nina in local, statewide, and special elections across the country in 2021. When you become a member, we want you to know that you will have allies both inside the halls of power, fighting for your issues, as well as working to organize efforts outside to make sure that our voices are heard in communities across the nation, like the Great 11th in Ohio, as well as in the state that I reside, the Lone Star State here in Texas. All across, you've heard, state by state, there is no stone left unturned for our revolution. And we will continue to organize. We will continue to build the movement. You can join up by touching on the link in the chat. For those of you joining us by phone, you can hit *3 or visit ourrev.us/2021 member. You can also speak to an operator. So please join in whichever way possible to help not just Senator Nina Turner, but all of our down ballot candidates across the nation. Senator Nina Turner, it is always a pleasure, such a joy and an honor to have you as part of the Our Revolution family. And let's get her into Congress, y'all.
The honor is all mine. And may I just shout out our dear sister, Mayor Carmen Yulene Cruz is in the house. And I don't know if we can spotlight her, but I see her all up in the chat. So to Mayor Cruz, I just want to throw that out. And I know our Revolution family loves her just as much. The hard work that she did in 2020, along with Congressman Ro Khanna and the Minister of Ice Cream himself, the one and only Ben Cohen. I'm telling you, I could not have had better partners in terms of being co-chairs of a national presidential campaign. You had people who believe in what we are fighting for with their heart, their soul, and their minds. And I just love each and every one of them. So I don't know if we can highlight the mayor, but I sure would like to spotlight her if we can. Mayor, we're sending you love. Our revolution loves you, and there are activists all over this country who love and lift you for all the work that you have done and what you're continuing to do in your new capacities right now.
Absolutely. We will try to elevate our Senator Turner.
Okay.
Joseph, do you want to go ahead and begin that next call out?
Sure. Sister Turner, thank you so much. We love you. We love Mayor Cruz. We love everyone who is leading our movement to the promised land. You're articulating an opportunity agenda. And that is what this movement is about. We are moving an opportunity agenda. We want to make sure that every man, woman, child every human being has the opportunity to live the life they are called to live. In our world today, a lot of our lives are lived at work. And the work, as we heard from Brother Hall, is sometimes difficult and sometimes challenging. It is many times an unjust, exploitative arrangement. And here at Our Revolution, we're committed to changing the structure of work in America and honoring the dignity of workers. One of the things that's going to be happening this week in Congress is the PRO Act, the Protecting the Right of Workers to Organize legislation is going to be moving in the U.S. House. The legislation, the title of the legislation says it all, protecting the right to organize. Why? Because by organizing, people can realize opportunities in their lives. Today, I want to bring up our next guest, Shane Larson. He is a longtime union activist. He is the Senior Director of Government and Legislative Affairs at the Communication Workers of America, one of the unions that is leading the fight to transform broken labor laws in the United States. Shane, welcome to our Monday night organizing call, and tell us a little bit about what's in this legislation.
Well, thanks, Joseph. Good evening. Good to see you, brother. It's been a while. Good evening to all of Our Revolution family out there. So glad to be with all of you, and to any of my CWA and union family members out there. Big shout out. Love you all. Thanks for everything you do. So yeah, Joseph, it's really interesting. The PRO Act. It's a really important piece of legislation that's hopefully coming up for a vote Tuesday or Wednesday. And, let me just for a second we had a staff meeting at CWA last week, and our Secretary Treasurer reminded us that it was a year ago when we had our staff meeting, and we announced that we were having our test work from home day. Well, that test work from home day, here we are a year later, and we're still working from home. And one of the things that this year of working remotely has taught so many of us is a lot of folks don't have that luxury. And one of the most important lessons I think we've all learned from this pandemic is that workers more than ever need a voice in their jobs. And that when workers have a voice in their jobs, it's important that we listen to it and that we as a society all work together to lift up and support those voices of workers in the jobs. And that's not something that is new in this country. It's something that policymakers have known for years. It's what lifted us up out of the Great Depression as a country. And the longest decade of prosperity for working people, for all Americans, from the 30s up through the 70s. And it was all about our labor laws. The Great Depression created the National Labor Relations Act, which, as President Joe Biden's been stressing since he was elected, during the campaign and since he's been elected, is that the National Labor Relations Act says it is the policy of the United States of America, the policy to support workers organizing and collective bargaining. It should be promoted by the government. But unfortunately, over the last since the enactment of the NLRA in the 1930s, the corporate powers immediately began to try to chip away at those rights. They fought it tooth and nail. It became the law because of people rising up and fighting and getting it passed. And then they began to chip away at it. They passed laws to make it legal for right to freeload in states. So we see the chipping away of worker rights, of unions having to represent workers who don't pay for that right. We've seen court cases. We've seen reining in the right for workers to withhold their labor through strikes. The PRO Act, and so now we're at the lowest point we've been since the Great Depression. Less than 9%, around 8.3% of workers in the private sector have a union today, have that right to have a voice on the job. But more workers than we've seen in a long time want to join a union, but it's not happening. Why is that? And I think you touched on it earlier, Joseph talking about the boss. People are afraid when your boss has a right to lock you in a room and interrogate you about your views about a union and to threaten and to talk about how other employees are getting wage increases or maybe getting promotions. That puts the fear of God in you. Well, the PRO Act will make it to take away that fear so that workers know that it is their right to be able to organize and to come together and vote for a union and to bargain collectively. The PRO Act would allow for workers to be able to negotiate at a first contract, once they've organized. It would empower the right to strike in this country once again, that we can withhold our labor and until the boss sits down and actually looks us in the face and negotiates with us so that we have a chance to have our voices heard. So, but it not only gives us the right and enhances our right to strike, but one of the most powerful tools we have is our members, CWA members who went on strike at AT&T throughout the South in the last couple of years. One of the most powerful things that moved them all throughout the South is when the UPS drivers would not cross those picket lines. They would not make the deliveries to those stores. That sort of solidarity, worker to worker solidarity to say, I stand with my brothers and sisters, even though we're not at the same company. The PRO Act would give us all that right to be able to stand in solidarity and strike with our brothers and sisters during their struggles and to stand in solidarity. So we have a chance to reverse those 85 years that the corporations have been chipping away at our rights, and we have a chance to start reversing that trend. And with the PRO Act, and hopefully we're going to get a vote on it this week, tomorrow or Wednesday. And because of the amazing work that the entire progressive movement has been doing since last year on the PRO Act, Joseph, we've seen there were 7 Democrats that voted against the PRO Act in the last Congress. 4 of them are coming back this year. We've heard already that 2 of those 4 are likely flipping their votes from no to yes. And we're hopeful that the other 2 will as well. We're also picking up some Republicans. And it's because people are recognizing that workers need a voice, and the workers are standing up and expressing their voices and calling their members of Congress. So hopefully we're going to win this vote, and we're going to win it on a bipartisan vote in the next couple of days. But then we got to take it to the Senate. And we've got to make sure we don't have all 50 of them yet. We need to focus on people like Mark Warner in Virginia, who has not supported this bill. And we need to make it clear that they need to stand up for workers. We need to get all 50 Democrats on board. And then we got to get rid of the filibuster. It is the last hurdle remaining. We've got to work together to get rid of that filibuster so we can get the PRO Act passed. And once again, give workers the voice that they need and their legal rights to be able to express themselves and work together with their brothers and sisters to improve all of our lives.
Shane, thank you so much. What you said is right. Labor law has been chipped away by the corporate masters who rule our economy. And I just want to share one very quick story. I used to be a union organizer with the steelworkers. This is in 1997. And I organized a small steel finishing plant in Springfield, Tennessee. Sorry. It's about an hour outside of Nashville. I got those workers, right? These are non-union workers. I got them to stand up. I remember sitting with workers. They were scared to support the union. I remember sitting at a dinner table in one man's living room. His hand was shaking as he was making a decision to sign the union card. They all stood up. They made a decision that they wanted to organize. And it was pretty impressive. Here's the thing, though. After we won, I got assigned to another campaign. About a month later, I called to check in on those workers, Shane. I called the staff rep who was negotiating the first contract. And I said, hey, how's the bargaining going, right? These guys were scared. Are they standing strong? He said, the staff rep said, bargaining. What bargaining? They moved the plant. They shut it down, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? I mean, that's the worst of what happens, right? Companies like Amazon, they're saying we're going to shut down a warehouse, or they hint it, right? But that is an example of the economic power they have over people's lives and how they use those threats to intimidate people from coming together. And so this legislation is vitally important. It is critical for our economic democracy that we do it. Our revolution is going to be out at the U.S. Capitol tomorrow with members of the CWA, Working Families, other groups. We're going to be live streaming nationally, 11 o'clock on our Facebook page. I encourage everyone to stand in solidarity. And then Shane, our revolution members are also going to be doing some door knocking in district of members that we need to move tomorrow and onward. So brother, we are in solidarity with this fight. We've got to end union busting. Why? Because union busting is very disgusting. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everyone.
Christy, back to you.
Thanks so much, Shane, and thank you, Joseph. Y'all, those are some receipts, in case you needed a summary. In addition to fighting for economic and worker justice, we are fighting for healthcare justice. On March 17th, exactly 1 year after the first coronavirus case was confirmed in the United States, Representative Jayapal will introduce her Medicare for All bill in Congress. That's March 17th. And while we push for federal action, our revolution has been building grassroots, supporting, getting local Medicare for All resolutions passed all across the country. Our latest victory was in Michigan, where our Revolution Michigan helped get the Salanti City Council to unanimously pass a resolution in support of Jayapal's bill. And we will continue to do that work state by state. On the state level, our revolution has endorsed California Assembly Bill 1400, known as CalCare, which would set up a universal statewide single-payer system. On Thursday, Our Revolution California's statewide meeting featured State Assembly Member Miguel Santiago, co-author of the bill, who called CalCare possibly the most important issue that we're going to take up in the legislature this year. Welcome to the call, Assembly Member Santiago.
How are you all? And a big hug to everybody who's on this call. I'm absolutely excited. You can't imagine to be talking to so many wonderful progressives. And I got to say from the onset, happy International Women's Day to each and every single one of you and your families. So thank you very much for having us on. And it is going to be the most important fight, if not this decade in the legislature. Let me tell you why. But first, it's called AB 1400. Remember that, AB 1400, CalCare. This is absolutely imperative. Now, we all know that since COVID hit, communities of color have been more impacted than anyone else. Particularly here in California, we have been devastated with high contraction rates and devastating economic effects. Some people say we want to get back to normal. Let me tell you what our communities are saying up and down the state of California. Normal was not working for us, and we're not going to go back to normal. When we go back, we want a better healthcare system to start off. There is no way we're going back to the old healthcare system. So single payer is what we want, and single payer is what we are going to fight for. Now, we're going to fight with love. We're going to fight with passion. We're going to fight with the best policy arguments, because who's going to argue about giving quality healthcare to every single person, whether you're documented, undocumented, and that our healthcare system looks towards healing our people, not making a profit. And this is absolutely critical, and it can be done. And it can be done. And look, we always say, well, the fight starts in California, we're going to win. And we know that if we could do it here in California, we could do it across the country. So let me start off by thanking everybody here for helping us to engage. And our revolution has helped us in ways that have been impossible in past legislation. That's why we're so excited. You might remember a few years ago when we did public banks in the state of California, and our colleagues, along with the Public Banking Alliance in California, it was the only movement that had zero lobbyists that got a bill like that done in the state of California. And now we have the ability to create public banks. But here was the turning point. The turning point was when our revolution engaged, sent an email out, and helped us to advocate. And that was a critical turning point in this movement, and we got public banks done. And when we're talking about single payer here in the state of California, and we're talking about getting AB 1400 done, we're going to need your help. Every single person on here, because I think we can do it. We've got the best policy arguments, and we're not going back to the normal healthcare system. And it's 4 easy steps. That's how simple we've laid it out. We're going to create a single payer system. We're going to create a board to administer it. We're going to set healthcare provider rates. And then we're going to fight for the funding for it. So it's possible to do it here. Could you imagine a healthcare system that doesn't discriminate and doesn't look after profiteering? A healthcare system that just looks towards healing us? It's not going to ask us whether we're documented or undocumented. Look, we've got a lot of work to do, but we're going to go for it, because we're going to set a progressive agenda here in the state of California. And we're going to depend on you folks to help us move that needle. And look, I just got to say that I'm absolutely honored to be on with the people who have been on today. And I was listening earlier to Senator Turner, and Senator, I'm all in. Tell me what we got to do to get you there, and I'm all in. Everything I got, we will help to get you there. And look, we know that with our revolution, we're going to get it done, because we've been at the forefront of every single progressive movement. Now, we're also going to be pushing for a millionaire's tax. You all stepped in last year when we engaged in that conversation in the state of California, and when we talked about a millionaire's tax, and its time has come here in California. Now, this year, we've come back, and we're going to engage in that conversation again, because in California, we have about over 164 billionaires in the state of California. And we have a majority of the population who is hurting. So while some talk about quarantining in their yachts, while some talk about about staying at home in their multi-million-dollar mansions, the other 99% of Californians are hurting in ways that are unimaginable when the rent keeps coming up and eviction notices are getting handed out left and right. So it's about time that we talked about folks paying their fair share. And we're looking forward to your leadership to engaging in this again, because we got to do it here. Some people are making incredible amounts of money during this pandemic. I heard a little conversation earlier about Bezos making money. He made so much money during this pandemic, and so did all the billionaires and wealthy people across this country. It is unimaginable how much money they have made. But look, I also want to thank some of our colleagues who stepped right into the fight. Mr. Ash Kalra, who's an assembly member, who stepped right into the fight on single payer. He introduced the bill, called me up, said, "You want to join author?" And I said, "We're all in." And Mr. Lee also, who joined the fight. And we've got unprecedented amount of co-authors from both the Senate and the Assembly who are going to engage on this fight. We've got the nurses engaging on this fight. So we know that if we stick together, we're going to make this happen. And we're looking forward to that sort of partnership. A healthcare system that looks towards healing people instead of making profit. Not too radical of an idea. It's time has come and we're going to do it. We can't go back to the normal healthcare system that we have had. So thank you very much for having us on this call. And we look towards advocating and fighting to make sure that this happens. And we're going to do it with love, and we're going to do it with the best policy arguments. And we've got to spread that progressive movement to every single part of California, every single part of this nation. Now in California, when we made free community college, now we know we pushed the federal administration to start talking about free community college. California, we were able to do $15 an hour. We know that the rest of the country is not talking about that. We did that because you helped, and we're looking forward to doing it all across the states. So thank you very much for having us on. And we're excited, fired up, we're ready to go.
You know, Miguel, I can see the chat blowing up with response to your enthusiasm, your leadership. I was on that California call, so I know you handle business. There are a couple of things I want people on the call to know tonight. 3 million Californians, even with the ACA enacted, have no insurance whatsoever. There are millions still who cannot afford to use the insurance they have because their co-pays and deductibles are too high. So we appreciate you as a progressive voice saying that we will not return to healthcare as usual, that we demand a more progressive, more just plan. And we also want to emphasize as progressives that COVID has shown us that employment-based healthcare does not work.
I agree.
Right?
Can I set a challenge out there, everybody out there? Get somebody to join the movement. Get somebody to join our revolution. Reach out to a friend. Reach out to a family member. Ahora le pido a toda nuestra gente que siga la lucha con nosotros. Vamos a ganar single payer aquí en California con su ayuda. Y métanse en el movimiento. Join our revolution. We're going to make this happen, but we're going to make it only if we stick together.
And, you know, we appreciate that, Miguel, letting people know how they can help with the movement as well as organizing efforts in California. You guys heard it from A.M. Santiago himself. We need you to get people to join the movement, spread the word, make sure people understand what's at stake here. Millions of people without access to healthcare, and we need leaders and activists, not just in Cali to help, but all across the nation to pitch in. If you can click on the link, California supporters, tell your reps to vote yes on CalCare AB 1400. And you can get more information about that by visiting the website. Again, we need your help to make sure we continue this work. You can help us by becoming a supporting member by visiting outrev.us/2021 member. And that'll take you to a link to become a supporting member. This is not an off year, y'all. We have work to do. And
join it. I know I keep saying it. Join it. Put it on there. How many people are going to join? Put it in the chat. How many people are you going to get to join our revolution? We're not going to do it if you don't join. And that's my infomercial.
So please become a movement builder, a 2021 movement builder. You can also hit *3. Thousands of you are joining us by phone or listening in as you drive home or clean your house or continue your duties. So please, you can hit *3. You can also just visit our website. Joseph, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, Assembly Member, thank you for your leadership on CalCare. Thank you for your leadership on public banking. That's what we are doing all across the country. Our Revolution members are organizing with progressive champions at every level, whether it's city, county, state, to transform our country. That's what you can be a part of. Support our movement. Miguel, we are so honored to be working in partnership with you, with Senator Turner, to bring healthcare to all, to make sure that everyone has the right to unionize, to make sure everyone has living wages. That's what our movement is about. I want to just wrap up with some ways you can also get involved. We do phone banks for Nina Turner. Link is in the chat. If you want to volunteer, take some time. Hello, somebody. Let's elect Nina Turner to the U.S. Congress.
That's right, Joseph. People can join by helping to organize and elect bold progressives like Santiago, as well as Senator Nina Turner. Tomorrow in California, there's going to be a rally. Just a quick note about that. If you're able to attend those rallies, those efforts across the nation, you can go to Our Revolution's Mobilize. It's mobilize.us/Our Revolution to find a rally in your community or support a rally in your community as we continue to push the work of the PRO Act and protecting people's right to organize across the nation. We do have some upcoming announcements. Our Revolution board members Jane Cleve and Jim Hightower tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, for a discussion on rural America and how to force structural change. You can sign up in the link at the hightowerlowdown.org/chat and chew. Also tomorrow evening, our Illinois Revolution and progressive legislators will celebrate Women's History Month and discuss their 2021 legislative agenda items. Connecticut, Thursday, Our Revolution Connecticut will host State Senator Julie Kushner and State Rep Robin Porter to discuss legalizing cannabis and taxing the rich. Again, a theme you will hear state from state across the nation from progressives. Also on Thursday, a coalition of Our Revolution groups in Virginia will hold a people's debate on the lieutenant governor race as part of the series of the People's Debates. Please stay tuned, stay connected. Make sure you read our emails. Make sure you read that Our Revolution report. And if you want to know how you can get involved, go to ourrev.us/volunteer to get more information. You can also just go to our Mobilize events to find a full list of all the events happening. You can see Ohio coming up, South Carolina coming up. And on that note, Joseph, we're going to go ahead and close. Unless there's anything else you want to add before we close out the evening. I know we're running short on time.
The only thing I want to add, sister, is when we organize,
we win.
We win.
When we organize,
we win.
When we organize,
we win.
Good night, revolutionaries. We'll see you next Monday, if not before.
Bye, guys.